going on, everybody? Thank you so much for coming back to another video, and in today's video we're talking about Into the Woods. So Into the Woods is a Disney film that came out a few years ago in theaters. I remember missing it, and I remember it looking pretty interesting. I knew it was a musical. I'm a big fan of musicals. My mom raised me with a big appreciation for musicals and theater. I've gone to a bunch of different stage plays, and I've seen tons and tons of musicals growing up. So it's something I've definitely always had an appreciation for and a love for. And so going into this movie, I was definitely excited to check that out. I ended up getting it for free via Disney's Movie Rewards website. And yeah, guys, I did not like this movie. So this film is star-studded with a cast including Chris Pine, Anna Kendrick, Johnny Depp, Meryl Streep, James Corden, Emily Blunt, just to name a few. And yeah, you know, I just could not get into the narrative of this film one bit. There was no emotional feeling for the narrative, the characters, nothing. I really could not get tied to a single individual in this film. The only characters that I had any sort of care about their adventure in this film were Emily Blunt and James Corden's character, who at the beginning of the film are set up to essentially have had their house cursed. They've been trying to have a child, and they find out that their home has been cursed by a witch, and she gives them essentially an ultimatum. They're given an ultimatum by this witch that curses their home, and they have 3 days to do something that she needs them to do for her. And if they do that, the curse will be lifted, and they'll be able to have a child. That for me was the only real thing to follow in this film, because none of the other characters, in my opinion, really have any sort of goals, or the narrative is not streamlined in any way for something for you to be excited about, something for you to be emotionally attached to. Yeah, I just could not get gripped by anything in this film. And if you have no idea what this film's about, outside of the basic idea that I just gave you, that's really the main narrative plot point throughout the film, this is essentially a blend of different popular fairy tales. So you have Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk, you have Cinderella, you have Little Red Riding Hood, just to name a few. And yeah, that concept sounded so awesome to me. You have a great cast, you have the fact that it's a musical, you have a blend of all these fantastic and great fairy tales and fantasy stories. And at the end of it all, it just felt like I just didn't care. I just didn't care about anything that was happening. And that's a really big bummer for me, because again, I like musicals. I love this kind of cast. The movie actually looked beautiful. The set design, the costume design, you know, the actors themselves, everybody looked great. And I really did appreciate the look of this film. The cinematography as well is very well done in this film. But the writing just lost me 110%. So after looking into it a little bit via IMDb, I saw that there's actually a book by the same name, Into the Woods, and the writer of that book also was the writer who brought it to a stage play as a musical. And as I was watching this film, I kept telling my girlfriend, I just felt like this movie would be a lot better if it was just done on a stage. I felt like the way that the scenes transitioned and just the way that the pacing of the film worked, it just felt like had this been on a stage where you got people in these costumes and all that kind of stuff, I could see it flowing in that world, and just the, you know, the stage play world where you can bring that kind of musical works for the stage. Whereas with this film, I just felt bored, and I felt like it just did not adapt well to a live action film. And just as an example of one scene, like I usually don't, I won't be getting into any spoilers, but you have Johnny Depp in this film, who's in this film for a very short period of time, and he plays the wolf in the narrative of, you know, Little Red Riding Hood. And you know, if you see a character playing a wolf in a stage play, you know, you have somebody dressed up as a wolf, or he's wearing some sort of wolf-like costume, it's easier to buy into the fact like, oh, he's the wolf in this story, he doesn't need to look or be a wolf for it to like come off, like for the narrative to come off the way they want to, if that makes sense. Except in this film, you have Johnny Depp, who just looks like Johnny Depp, except he has like whisker-like like mustache or facial hair. He has like a hat on that has like two little fake-looking wolf ears on it. He's wearing like Michael Jackson gloves with fake claws at the end, and that has fur on the top of his hands. And you know, it looks like something that you could possibly see an actor wearing in a stage play, but it just did not work in this movie for me, because Johnny Depp for me just came off very pedophile-like. You know, you have him in the woods following Little Red Riding Hood, talking about her pale pink skin and how he wants to devour her and how she will be his and all this kind of stuff. And if you can imagine the kind of acting that Johnny Depp brings to screen a lot of times, you know, he can get into that creepy vibe very well. You know, he definitely leaned into whatever the director wanted him to do. But for me, it just came off very creepy, and he never becomes a wolf in the movie. He's never like a human-looking character that becomes a wolf. He's just, you're supposed to just buy the fact that he is a wolf. And that's why I feel like this movie just didn't adapt well to a live-action film, and it would have worked 100 times better just as a stage play. There's so many parts in the film where I literally felt like, okay, had that transition like that on stage, it probably would have gotten applause or something. But in the film, it just makes you go like, what is going on? Like, it just feels off. It just feels very strange, and it just never... the narrative never feels paced in a manner where you feel like you're able to really get into the characters and the narrative. And I was actually pretty surprised when I looked online to see that this has a very high critic score. And maybe not a very high critic score, but a pretty decent, or, you know, at least good critic score. And yeah, this is just one that I just definitely did not connect with. My girlfriend was the same way. About 10 to 15 minutes in, we looked at each other and we were a little bit worried, because just the way that the narrative was put together and paced, again, you just really can't grip onto anything that happens in this film. Another thing too that I really struggled with were the songs. It didn't feel like there were really songs in this movie. Like I mentioned, I really do enjoy musicals, and I have plenty of musical films that I'm very excited to eventually review for this channel. But this movie felt, for me, like there was maybe 1 or 2, 3 songs across the entire film that weren't necessarily good, but that had some sort of a catchy hook to it. And most of the other songs, or the singing, didn't have a hook, and the lyrics and the words just feel like they didn't flow well. It felt like it was constantly switching melodies, and it just didn't have anything for me to really hook into whatsoever. And what I mean by the fact that the music just didn't work for me, or that it just didn't feel like the melodies were flowing or anything, was that it felt a lot of times like they just took the script and just had the actors singing the words, but not necessarily in any sort of melody that would flow with the next one. And there were, like I said, there were like 1 or 2, maybe 3 songs that had like some sort of hook or some sort of like line that, like, okay, like this is the same song. But there would be times where I didn't even know if we were even in the same song, and it would get later on into the song, and then they would sing that hook that they sang like 10 minutes prior, and I was like, oh, we're still singing this song? Like, I had no idea, because all of the lyrics and the songs in between were just, it just didn't feel like they flowed whatsoever. And you know, like that for me, like they lost me in that. Like I just felt like I wasn't able to connect to any of the songs, and it really disappointed me 110% when it comes to the music. I wish that I could have, you know, really gotten attached to some of the music. There are so many musicals that I have on my playlist on my phone that I listen to the music, and I'm able to have my mind go back to that scene in the movie, and you know, and even though it may be very theatrical, I mean, you know, it's not your typical just random song to listen to, I can still tap into the emotion that the film wanted me to feel, and this movie just didn't have any of that for me. There are characters that make just stupid decisions, nothing that I could really get behind. There are just characters that are just doing things to do things. I really just could not get into the characters, the music, and the narrative of this film, and I really can't stress that enough when I talk about this film. Outside of that, probably the biggest gripe I have with this movie is the fact that they skip over really what you would think are important or big pieces to these characters' stories. For instance, when the Beanstalk becomes a part of this narrative, like I mentioned, Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk is in this movie. He plays a big character in the movie, or, you know, when I say a big character, he's just a very reoccurring character throughout the film. And when the Beanstalk shows up, it goes to nighttime, you know, spoilers, I guess. And the next morning, Jack is singing about the fact that there's giants in the sky, that there's this whole land with giants, but they skip over it. They never take you to the land of the giants. He goes up there multiple times in this film, and you never once see the giants, and they just skip over it. He just sings about the events that he just had. And I just feel like that made for just a very weak and just bland live action adaptation of this story. Like, I just could not get gripped or to anything that was happening. Cinderella is another great example. Like, every time you see Cinderella in this film, and she was practically useless in this film. Every time you see her, as the film progresses, she's running away from the prince from his ball. You know, the famous, you know, story where she needs to get back home, essentially. But she's just running away from the prince every time you see her. They do it 3 times in the film where she's running away from the prince, but they never show her at the ball. They never show her with the prince. So anytime the prince, who's played by Chris Pine, is looking for her, and, you know, he's like, oh, I need to find this beautiful woman, you don't care because they didn't show those characters meet. They didn't show those characters have any sort of interaction. They didn't show those characters really connect in any shape or form. There was no character development in this film. Like I said, the only characters that I cared about at all in this film were Emily Blunt and James Corden, and that's ruined for me at the very end, where Emily Blunt's character makes a decision and then sings a song about it, and then I don't want to spoil it, so it's just I don't even know, man. This is just one of those movies for me where I just couldn't help but feel like, what? Like, who wrote this? And to speak of who wrote it, I looked into it. Police. Well, as far as who wrote it, I looked into it a little bit further, like I mentioned, and the same writer of the book and the same guy who brought it into musical form, and I could be wrong about this, from what I saw on IMDb, it's the same writer who wrote the book and the musical, and there was no other screenwriters credited. So for me, it's like, did they really get this guy who wrote this book to write not only the book, but also translate it to a musical, and then translate it to a live action film? They should have had him working with a screenwriter, you know, because the movie just did not adapt to screen well whatsoever. You just don't care about anything that's happening in this movie. You don't care about any of the characters that are in this film, and I just really was super baffled at how this movie came to be. I was also surprised at certain moments that this was even under the Disney banner. There were just questionable moments that made me feel like, really? Like, Disney watched this and said, yeah, let's release it under Disney. That surprised me a little bit. But yeah, guys, I don't have too much more to say about this movie. You know, the performances in the film are fine. Like, there was nobody that, like, gave, like, a crap performance in this movie. Everybody's solid for what the movie is. The problem is that the movie doesn't take these characters to any exciting or interesting directions whatsoever. I didn't care about anything that happened to any of the characters. And when you do care about certain things, it feels like it gets ruined. And all the songs, I literally wanted to pull my ears off because the songs were laughable. My girlfriend and I just kept looking at each other, and maybe there was a few catchy tones and a few little moments, and everybody who's singing in the movie sings great. You know what I mean? Like, the music that's behind them sounds nice. It's produced well, and the actual, like, vocal performances from the different actors were all very well done. It was just the melodies and the lyrics that really just I couldn't get connected to. And like I said before, it was essentially, for me, like they took a random script. Like, if I just took a Star Wars script and just had all the actors just sing all the lines that they have just as they are, without making it like a cohesive melody, and just have those actors just sing the, you know, I am your father, like, you know, it just felt like, what? Like, the whole time I just felt like it was never cohesive. It never felt like it was just like it put together well. I don't know. This was just one that I did not connect with. I did not resonate with. Like I said, you know, as far as my positives, because this is majority being a negative review, you know, very well acted, I would say. The cinematography is very, very good. You know, the look of the film, the costume design, the production design, the film looks really good. And like I said, like the vocal performances are good, all that kind of stuff. It's just the characters and the music and the story, just, you know, the things that should be the most important when you come to a musical or a film in general, as far as the narrative and characters go. Yeah, that all fell flat for me. So yeah, guys, that's gonna be my review of Into the Woods. I'd love to hear what you guys thought about this movie if you've seen it. Please, I really want to start a discussion about this, because I really want to know if you like this movie. You know, don't take all my words to heart. I definitely want to understand or see what you saw in the film. So be sure to leave that comment down below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more videos, guys. I really appreciate you guys all watching. Also, before I go, I just want to give a quick shout out to my boy Robbie with the Big Rob Theory. I will leave all the links down below where you can find him and his YouTube channel. He was recently on 3 of my videos that you can find if you go back just a few videos. We did a vlog together at Disney's Hollywood Studios, and we did a review for Man of Steel and the first Transformers film directed by Michael Bay. And yeah, so he just started a channel right when he was here. He had done like a welcome to my channel kind of video that came out a couple weeks ago, or like a week and a half ago or so, and he has now put out 2 reviews on his channel, one for Justice League, the Flashpoint Paradox, and another for Captain Marvel. Guys, if you were into comic book related stuff, if you were into movie reviews and you're just looking for new content, I could not suggest my boy Robbie Reed more. You know, he's just getting started, but he's really passionate. He loves this kind of stuff, and he loves to get in discussions in the comic sections, all that kind of stuff, guys. So if you're into comic book related things, guys, Marvel, DC, anything like that, sci-fi, Robert is definitely somebody you guys want to follow. Like I mentioned, good friend of mine, really passionate about this stuff. And yeah, like I said, I'll leave all the links down below where you can find his video and give him some support, give him some love. Go subscribe to his channel. And yeah, guys, thank you so much. Subscribe to my channel too. Hit that like button, comment like I mentioned before, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.